My name is Dora, and I am 67 years old. I had just come home from a 3-week trip visiting my sister in Florida. I was so looking forward to walking through my front door, the same door my late husband Harold and I had walked through for 42 years. I thought my son and daughter-in-law would be happy to see me. But when the taxi pulled up to the curb, I saw my suitcases sitting on the sidewalk. There was a note pinned to one of them. Before I even read it, a cold chill ran down my spine. You see, I had signed papers putting my son's name on the house because I trusted family. Before I continue with my story, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever been treated unfairly by someone you trusted in your own home, please hit that like button so I know I am not alone in this. Now let me tell you what happened when I read that note. My husband Harold and I built that house with our own hands and hearts. Well, Harold did most of the building. He was a carpenter, the best one in our county. Our home is a colonial-style house in the suburbs of Philadelphia. 4 bedrooms, a big backyard, and a beautiful old oak tree that Harold planted the year we got married. He used to say that tree would outlive us both, and he was right about that. Harold made everything in that house special. He built the kitchen cabinets himself, every single one of them. He put up the fence around the backyard. He even built a wooden swing for our son Marcus when he was just a little boy. I can still picture Marcus on that swing laughing while Harold pushed him higher and higher. Harold passed away 8 years ago from lung cancer. It happened slowly then, all at once. One day he was coughing a little more than usual. 6 months later, I was holding his hand as he took his last breath in our bedroom, the bedroom we had shared for 39 years. After he was gone, I stayed in that house. People told me to sell it to move somewhere smaller, but I could not do it. Every corner of that house held a piece of Harold. His coffee mug still sat on the kitchen counter. His reading glasses were still on the nightstand. His favourite armchair, the brown leather one with the worn armrests, still faced the window where he used to watch the birds in our backyard. That house was not just a building to me. It was 42 years of memories. It was Harold. My son Marcus is my only child. He is 41 years old now. When he was young, he was the sweetest boy you could imagine. He would help me in the kitchen without being asked. He loved following his father out to the garden, carrying tools that were too heavy for his little arms. Harold would pretend not to notice, letting Marcus feel like he was helping. Marcus went to college and studied accounting. He got a good job at an insurance company downtown. He was responsible, reliable, everything a mother could hope for. After Harold died, Marcus came by often to check on me. He helped me with repairs around the house, things Harold would have done. He mowed the lawn. He fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom. I truly believed my son would always be there for me. Then Priscilla came into our lives. Marcus met Priscilla 6 years ago through one of those dating apps. She was 38 years old and worked in real estate. The first time Marcus brought her to the house, I noticed how she looked at everything. Not the way you look at someone's home when you are getting to know them. She looked at it the way a buyer looks at a property. Priscilla dressed nicely always in expensive clothes. She spoke smoothly, always knowing exactly what to say, but there was something cold behind her smile. I could feel it. Still, I told myself not to judge too quickly. Marcus seemed happy, and that was what mattered. They got married after a year of dating. I paid for most of the wedding because I wanted my son to have a beautiful day. Priscilla thanked me, but I noticed she was already talking about our house. She asked about its value, about the land it sat on, about how much the neighbourhood had developed over the years. I thought she was just making conversation. 2 years ago, Marcus and Priscilla moved into my house. They said it was temporary, just until they saved enough money to buy their own place. I was happy to have them. The house felt less empty with people in it. Then Priscilla suggested something that changed everything. She said it would be easier for the family if Marcus's name was on the house too. That way, she explained, if anything happened to me, there would be no legal complications. Marcus agreed with her. He said, "Mom, I am your only son. Sooner or later, this house will be mine anyway." I hesitated. Something in my gut told me to wait. But Marcus was my son, my flesh and blood. How could I not trust him? So I signed the papers. I added Marcus's name to the deed as a co-owner. I did not know it then, but that was the biggest mistake of my life. I had handed them the key to my own destruction because I believed in family. I believed that blood meant loyalty. But some people see family as nothing more than an opportunity. After Priscilla moved in, things started changing around the house. Small things at first, so small I almost did not notice them. But looking back now, I can see they were all part of a pattern. The first thing she did was change the curtains. I had made those curtains myself years ago. They were cream-coloured with little blue flowers, and I had sewn them on my mother's old sewing machine. One day, I came home from grocery shopping, and they were gone. In their place were sleek grey curtains, modern-looking, with no warmth to them at all. I asked Priscilla about it. She smiled and said she thought the old ones were looking dated. She said she wanted to freshen up the place. I did not argue. Maybe I was being too attached to old things. Then Harold's armchair disappeared. I went downstairs one morning, and it was gone from its spot by the window. I found it in the basement, shoved into a corner behind some boxes. When I asked Priscilla why, she said it did not match the new living room aesthetic. She said it made the room look cluttered. I told her that chair meant a lot to me. It was Harold's chair. She looked at me with that cold smile and said, "I understand. But Marcus and I need to feel comfortable in our home too." Our home. She said our home. I went to Marcus about it. I told him how I felt. He just sighed and said, "Mom, let Priscilla handle the decorating. She has better taste in these things. Do not take it personally." But I did take it personally. That was Harold's chair, the chair he sat in every evening, the chair he was sitting in the last time he was strong enough to come downstairs. Next, Priscilla started taking over the kitchen. Cooking had always been my joy. I loved making meals for my family. It was how I showed love. But Priscilla began complaining about my food. She said I used too much oil. She said my cooking was not healthy for Marcus. She said he needed to watch his cholesterol. She started ordering takeout instead. Expensive meals from fancy restaurants delivered to the door. She told me I should rest, that I did not need to cook anymore. But it did not feel like a kindness. It felt like I was being pushed aside. I started spending more time in my room. The worst part was how Priscilla always interrupted whenever Marcus and I tried to talk. If I wanted to tell my son a story about his father, about the old days, Priscilla would walk in and change the subject. Once I was telling Marcus about the time Harold surprised me with flowers on our anniversary, and Priscilla cut in and said, "That is ancient history." Why dwell on the past? Marcus said nothing. He did not defend me. He just looked down at his phone. I began to feel like a stranger in my own house. Then came the brochure. One evening, I walked into the kitchen and saw a glossy pamphlet sitting on the table. It was for a nursing home. Sunny Pines Senior. Living, it said on the cover. There was a picture of old people sitting in wheelchairs, smiling at nothing. I picked it up and asked Priscilla what it was. She laughed a light little laugh and said, "Oh, I was just reading it for fun. You know, in case we ever need it someday." In case we ever need it? She meant in case they ever needed to get rid of me. That night, I lay in bed and cried. I wondered if I was becoming a burden. I wondered if my own son wanted me gone. I wondered what Harold would say if he could see what was happening to our family. I should have spoken up. I should have confronted them. But I was afraid. I was afraid that if I made a fuss, I would lose Marcus completely. So I stayed quiet. Looking back, I know now that silence only made things worse. A few months after the nursing home brochure incident, I got a phone call from my sister Betty. Betty is 63 years old and lives in Tampa, Florida. She had just had knee replacement surgery and needed someone to help take care of her while she recovered. Betty and I have always been close. She is my only sibling, and we have been through a lot together. When she asked if I could come stay with her for a few weeks, I wanted to say yes. But I was hesitant. I did not want to leave my house for that long. Something about it made me uneasy. Strangely, Priscilla was the one who encouraged me to go. She was almost too enthusiastic about it. She said, "Mum, you should definitely go help Aunt Betty. We can take care of everything here. Do not worry about a thing." Marcus agreed. He said it would be good for me to get away to have a change of scenery. He said they would look after the house. Against my better judgment, I booked a flight to Florida. I packed 3 suitcases with enough clothes for 3 weeks. I hugged Marcus goodbye at the door. Priscilla gave me a quick wave from the couch, barely looking up from her phone. The 3 weeks in Florida were good for my soul. Betty and I had not spent that much time together in years. We talked about everything: our childhood, our parents, our husbands. I told her about my life at home, about how things had been since Priscilla moved in. Betty did not hold back. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Dora, I do not trust that woman. There is something off about her. You need to be careful." I waved her off. I said Priscilla was just a little difficult, but she was not a bad person. She was my son's wife. I had to give her a chance. Betty shook her head and said, "I hope you are right. But watch your back." While I was in Florida, I called home a few times. Marcus answered, but our conversations were short. He always seemed distracted. When I asked to speak to Priscilla, he said she was busy. After a while, I stopped asking. I did not know what was happening back in Philadelphia while I was gone. I did not know that Priscilla had hired people to come and appraise the house. I did not know she had met with a lawyer to discuss property rights. I did not know she had moved all my belongings from the master bedroom down to a small room in the basement. I did not know she was telling the neighbors that I had moved to Florida permanently. I found out all of this later from my neighbor Eleanor. But at the time, I was completely in the dark. Then, the night before I was supposed to fly home, I got a strange phone call. It was from a number I did not recognize. When I answered, I heard Eleanor's voice on the other end. Eleanor is about 70 years old. She has lived next door to me for 30 years. We have been through births, deaths, holidays, and everything in between. She is more than a neighbor. She is a friend. Her voice sounded worried. She said, "Dora, are you selling the house?" I was confused. I said, "What are you talking about?" "Of course I am not selling the house." Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "People have been coming to look at it. I have seen them walking around the property with Priscilla. She told me you decided to stay in Florida." My heart started pounding. I told Eleanor that was not true. I said I was coming home tomorrow. Eleanor paused, then said, "You should come home soon, Dora. Something is not right." That night, I did not sleep at all. I lay in Betty's guest room, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Something was very wrong. I could feel it in my bones. The flight home felt like it took forever. Every minute dragged on as I sat in my seat, gripping the armrests, trying not to panic. I kept telling myself that maybe Eleanor was mistaken. Maybe there was a simple explanation. Maybe Priscilla was just showing the house to friends, or maybe she was thinking about renovations and wanted opinions. But deep down, I knew. I knew something terrible was waiting for me. When the taxi pulled up to my house on that Saturday afternoon, my worst fears came true. There, sitting on the curb next to the garbage cans, were my 3 suitcases. The same suitcases I had packed for Florida. The same suitcases I had left safely in my closet. I told the driver to wait while I got out of the car. My legs felt weak as I walked toward the curb. As I got closer, I saw a piece of paper attached to one of the suitcases with a piece of tape. I picked it up with shaking hands and read the words written in Priscilla's handwriting. "If you want to stay here, the garage is yours." Signed, Priscilla. I read it 3 times. I could not believe what I was seeing. The garage. She wanted me to live in the garage, like I was some kind of unwanted animal. I walked up to the front door, my key already in my hand. But when I tried to put the key in the lock, it did not fit. They had changed the locks. They had actually changed the locks on my own house. I knocked on the door. No answer. I rang the doorbell. Nothing. I knocked again, harder this time. I could see through the window that the lights were on inside. I could see movement. Someone was home. I walked around to the side of the house and peeked through the living room window. There was Priscilla sitting on my couch watching television. She was eating something out of a bowl, completely relaxed, as if nothing was wrong, as if she had not just thrown her mother-in-law out onto the street. I banged on the window. She looked up, saw me, and then looked away. She did not get up. She did not come to the door. She just sat there, ignoring me. I pulled out my phone and called Marcus. It rang and rang, but he did not answer. I called again. Still nothing. I sent him a text message that said, "Marcus, I am standing outside our house. The locks are changed. What is going on?" 30 minutes passed. I was still standing on the porch, my suitcases on the curb, the taxi driver long gone. Finally, my phone rang. It was Marcus. I answered immediately. I said, "Marcus, what is happening? Why are my things outside? Why are the locks changed?" His voice was cold, colder than I had ever heard it. He said, "Mom, Priscilla thinks it is best if you find somewhere else to live. The house belongs to us now." I could not believe what I was hearing. I said, "What do you mean it belongs to you?" "This is my house. This is your father's house." Marcus said, "You signed the papers?" "Mum, my name is on the deed. I have a right to decide who lives here." I felt like the ground was falling away beneath my feet. I said, "Marcus, I only added your name to make things easier, not so you could throw me out." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Priscilla says you can stay in the garage. We will fix it up for you. It will be comfortable." I was crying now, tears streaming down my face. I said, "How can you do this to me? I am your mother. I raised you. I loved you." Marcus did not answer. He just hung up. I stood there on the porch, sobbing. I looked at the house I had lived in for 42 years, the house where I had raised my son, the house where my husband had died. And now I was being told I was not welcome inside. A few minutes later, Eleanor came running across the yard. She must have seen me from her window. She wrapped her arms around me and said, "Come inside my house, Dora. You cannot stay out here." I picked up my suitcases one by one and followed Eleanor to her home. Each step felt like walking through mud. Each breath felt like fire in my chest. That night was the darkest night of my life. I had already lost my husband. Now it felt like I had lost my son, too. But sometimes it is only in the darkest moments that we finally see the light. Eleanor gave me her guest bedroom and told me to stay as long as I needed. She made me tea and sat with me while I cried. She did not try to make me feel better with empty words. She just listened. That is what true friends do. That night, I could not sleep. My mind kept spinning with everything that had happened. Around midnight, I picked up my phone and called the automated line for my bank. I just wanted to check my account to make sure everything was still in order. When the automated voice read my balance, my heart stopped. My savings account, which should have had almost $40,000 in it, now showed just under $20,000. Half of my money was gone. I sat up in bed, my hands shaking. I tried to remember the last time I had checked the account. It had been before I left for Florida. Everything was fine then. Now $20,000 had vanished. Then I remembered. A few months ago, Marcus had asked me for my banking information. He said it was just in case of an emergency, in case something happened to me, and he needed to access my funds. I had given it to him without a second thought. He was my son. I trusted him. The next morning, I called the bank as soon as it opened. A customer service representative confirmed that there had been multiple transfers over the past 3 weeks. $20,000 had been moved to another account, an account that did not belong to me. I asked if they could tell me whose account it was. They said they could not give me that information over the phone, but they recommended I come into the branch with proper identification. I was devastated, not just because of the money, but because of what it meant. Marcus had stolen from me. My own son had taken my money while I was away caring for my sister. Eleanor could see how upset I was. She asked me what was wrong, and I told her everything. She listened with a serious expression, then said she wanted to introduce me to someone. Her niece Jasmine was a lawyer who specialized in real estate and elder rights. Eleanor said Jasmine might be able to help. I met Jasmine the next day at a coffee shop downtown. She was 35 years old, sharp and confident with kind eyes. She listened to my entire story without interrupting. She took notes on a yellow legal pad, asking questions only when she needed clarification. When I finished, Jasmine looked at me and said, "Dora, what they did to you is not just wrong. It is illegal." She explained that even though I had added Marcus's name to the deed, that did not give him the right to lock me out of my own home. As a co-owner, I had every right to live there. She also said that taking money from my account without my consent could be considered financial elder abuse, which is a crime. She asked me if I had any evidence. I had my bank statements. I had text messages from Marcus and Priscilla. I had Eleanor as a witness to the people who had come to look at the house. Jasmine said we needed more. She told me to contact the company that had appraised the house and ask for documentation. She said we should also get statements from any other neighbors who might have seen suspicious activity. Over the next few days, I gathered everything I could. The appraisal company confirmed that Priscilla had requested a valuation of the property. They sent me a copy of the report. Eleanor wrote a detailed statement about what she had observed. Another neighbor, a retired teacher named Donald, confirmed he had seen strangers walking around my property with Priscilla. I also called Betty and told her everything. She was furious. She said, "Dora, you cannot let them get away with this. You have to fight." Betty offered to help pay for the legal fees. She said she would fly up to Philadelphia to be with me. I told her she did not have to, but she insisted. She said, "You are my sister. I am not letting you go through this alone." 3 days later, Betty arrived. She hugged me tight and said, "We are going to get through this together." I had spent so much of my life avoiding conflict. I had stayed quiet when I should have spoken up. I had accepted disrespect because I was afraid of losing my son. But now I realized something. Staying quiet had not protected my relationship with Marcus. It had only made it easier for him and Priscilla to take advantage of me. It was time to fight back. Jasmine worked quickly. Within a week, she had prepared a formal legal letter addressed to both Marcus and Priscilla. The letter was clear and direct. It demanded that they restore my full access to the house immediately. It demanded that they return the $20,000 that had been transferred from my account without authorization. And it warned them that if they did not comply, they would face criminal charges for financial elder abuse and unlawful property exclusion. I was nervous when Jasmine sent the letter. I did not know how Marcus and Priscilla would react. Part of me still hoped that maybe this would wake Marcus up. Maybe he would realize how wrong this all was. The first call came from Priscilla. She was screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She called me ungrateful. She said I was trying to destroy her family. She said I had no right to threaten them. I waited for her to finish. Then I said very calmly, "Priscilla, you cannot destroy something you already destroyed yourself." She hung up on me. The second call came a few hours later. It was Marcus. His voice was different this time. He sounded nervous, almost scared. He said he wanted to talk. I agreed to meet him at Eleanor's house. He came alone without Priscilla. When he walked in, he looked like he had not slept in days. His eyes were red. His clothes were wrinkled. He sat down across from me and said, "Mum, I did not know about the money. I swear." Priscilla handled the finances. She told me she was just moving things around, keeping everything organized. I looked at my son, the boy I had raised, the man I thought I knew. I said, "Marcus, did you know she was going to lock me out of my own house? Did you know she was going to put my suitcases on the curb?" He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "She said we needed space. She said you would understand." I shook my head. I said, "Son, do you really believe that? Or do you just believe it because it is easier than admitting your wife is a thief?" Did not answer. He just stared at the floor. I leaned forward and said, "I love you, Marcus. I will always love you. But I am not going to let you or anyone else take what is mine. If you want to make this right, you have to choose. Your mother or your wife." He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. He said, "I do not know what to do." I said, "Then figure it out, because this is going to court if we cannot settle it now." A few days later, both parties met at Jasmine's office for a mediation session. Priscilla arrived looking confident, dressed in an expensive suit like she was going to a business meeting. Her lawyer was a tall man with a cold expression. Jasmine presented the evidence: bank statements showing unauthorized transfers, documentation from the appraisal company, witness statements from Eleanor and Donald, text messages proving Priscilla's involvement in planning to remove me from the house. As Jasmine laid everything out on the table, I watched Priscilla's face change. Her confidence began to crack. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, and she looked uncomfortable for the first time. Jasmine explained the situation clearly. If this case went to court, Priscilla could face criminal charges for elder financial abuse. Marcus could be held liable as a co-owner who enabled the fraud. The consequences could include fines, restitution, and even jail time. Priscilla's lawyer asked for a recess. They stepped out into the hallway for about 15 minutes. When they came back, Priscilla looked defeated. She agreed to sign over all rights to the property. She agreed that Marcus would remove his name from the deed, returning full ownership to me. She agreed to repay the $20,000 within 30 days, and she agreed that she and Marcus would move out of my house within 1 month. When Jasmine slid the papers across the table for Priscilla to sign, I watched her hand tremble. She signed without looking at me. Marcus signed too. When he finished, he stopped and looked at me. He said, "Mom, I am sorry." I nodded. I did not say anything. As we left the office, Priscilla walked quickly to her car without a word. Marcus lingered for a moment, then followed her. I went home that same evening. Eleanor drove me. When we pulled up to the house, I just sat in the car for a minute looking at it. My house. My home. I walked up to the front door. I had a new key now, one that Jasmine had arranged. I put it in the lock, turned it, and stepped inside. The house was quiet. Some things had been moved around. Some of my belongings were still in the basement. But I was home. I walked into the living room and saw Harold's armchair still sitting in the corner where Priscilla had moved it. I dragged it back to its spot by the window, the place where it belonged. Then I sat down in that chair and cried. But this time they were tears of relief. Tears of victory. I had fought for what was mine, and I had won. The first few days back in the house were strange. Everything looked the same, but everything felt different. I walked through the rooms like a visitor, trying to remember what it felt like to belong here. I found some of my things still in boxes in the basement. Old photographs. Harold's tools. The quilt my grandmother made for my wedding. Priscilla had packed them away like they were garbage. I brought them all upstairs, one box at a time. I put the photographs back on the shelves. I hung the quilt on the back of the couch. I put Harold's tools back in the garage, right where they had always been. Some nights, I woke up in the middle of the night, my heart pounding, thinking I heard someone trying to change the locks again. It took a while for those fears to fade. Betty stayed with me for a whole month. She helped me put the house back in order. She cooked for me when I did not feel like cooking. She sat with me when I needed to talk and gave me space when I needed to be alone. Eleanor came by almost every day. Sometimes she brought food. Sometimes she just sat with me on the porch, watching the birds and talking about nothing important. Those small moments meant more than she will ever know. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. I joined a group at the local community centre, a gathering of seniors who met every Thursday to share stories and play cards. I met people who had been through similar experiences, people who had been betrayed by family, people who had found the strength to start over. I also started teaching cooking classes at the centre, just simple recipes, things I had learned from my mother and grandmother. The students were mostly young people who had never learned to cook at home. They reminded me that I still had something to offer, that my life was not over just because my son had let me down. As for Marcus, 6 months after everything happened, he and Priscilla got divorced. I heard about it from Eleanor, who heard it from someone at the grocery store. Apparently, Priscilla had been having an affair with a man she met through her real estate work. When Marcus found out, he finally saw her for who she really was. Marcus called me a few weeks after the divorce was finalized. He asked if we could meet. I said yes. We met at a diner near my house. He looked tired, older. He said he had been seeing a therapist, trying to understand how he had let Priscilla control him so completely. He said he was ashamed of what he had done. I listened to him. I did not interrupt. When he finished, I reached across the table and put my hand on his. I said, "Marcus, I forgive you, but forgiveness does not mean things go back to the way they were. You hurt me deeply. It will take time for me to trust you again." He nodded. He said he understood. We have seen each other a few times since then. He comes by the house, occasionally helps me with repairs like he used to. We do not talk about Priscilla. We do not talk about what happened. Maybe someday we will. But for now, we are just trying to rebuild one small step at a time. Here is what I learned from all of this. Family is not always a safe place. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. And loving someone does not mean you have to accept being mistreated. I also learned that strength does not come from being young or powerful. It comes from knowing your own worth. I am 67 years old, and I stood up for myself when it mattered most. I did not back down. I did not disappear quietly. I fought, and I won. Forgiveness is important, but it is not the same as forgetting. I have forgiven Marcus because holding on to anger would only hurt me, but I will never forget what happened. The memory keeps me wise. It reminds me to protect myself, to trust carefully, and to never sign my name to something without understanding every word. If you are out there right now going through something like this, I want you to hear me. You are not a burden. You are not worthless. You have every right to stand up for yourself, no matter your age, no matter who is trying to push you down. This house is still mine, and I am still here sitting in Harold's chair, watching the birds in the backyard, living my life on my own terms. I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up to someone you loved, even when it broke your heart? Have you ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your story. And if this story touched you in some way, please take a moment to hit the like button. It helps more people find videos like this. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss any future stories. And if you know someone who might need to hear this message, please share this video with them. You never know whose life you might change. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope wherever you are, you know your worth. I hope you have people in your life who love you the right way. And I hope if you ever find yourself standing on the curb with your suitcases, you find the strength to pick them up and fight your way back inside. Take care of yourselves. And remember, your home is wherever you decide to plant your feet and refuse to be moved.